The following episode is being sponsored by PicoGear, in which they sent me a free review unit for my unbiased review. This episode will be presented with no background music so that you can hear the sound quality going straight into my GH5. Keep in mind I'm in a non-sound treated room with a lawn mowing team outside and a dehumidifier going on downstairs intermittently. This current message and the following TLDR scream session will be recorded into my Tascam DR40. Tilder! What is this? This is the PicoStream dual wireless clip-on lavalier setup. How much does it cost? Approximately $450. It's got a 20-hour battery life. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Takes approximately 4 hours to charge, works up to 300 feet in the hardest of outdoor conditions, can work through multiple house walls if you're indoors. Who is this for? Wedding videographers and event videographers. Why should you care about the company PicoGear? Because they actually listen, and I'm extremely excited for their future. Done. Roll that intro. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to find out whether or not the PicoMic wireless system is going to be the right audio solution for you and your overall filmmaking setup. And I'm here to tell you, yes it is, especially if you're a wedding videographer, an event videographer, or maybe you do corporate or college lectures, this system is for you. Because this microphone is so small. It basically is no bigger than a AA battery, and when it comes down to it, when it's on your shirt, it looks pretty much like any wired lavalier mic system, but you no longer have to put a wire through the shirt to a belt pack. You literally just clip it on, you're good to go. Now, before we get into the major part of this review, I really want to relay a story about why you need to pay attention to PicoGear, because my experience with them in reviewing and testing this unit has really made me want to keep them in my radar because I think they're off to a great start. PicoGear, they're a startup company. This is their first product out of the gate. And when they sent this to me about 2.5 weeks ago, I think I'm one of the first people in the US to actually get one to start testing it and reviewing it. I didn't just review it because it worked really well going into my audio recorder, but it did not do so hot going into my GH5. Long story short, essentially the receiver is pumping out such a hot signal to the point where I had to take the gain way down on the receiver and the mic, and then that inherently made me hear nothing but the noise floor in my GH5. So when I expressed this concern to him, I also said, listen, I get that you want this to be a professional piece of equipment for people that want to use it with audio recorders. However, not a lot of us want to do that necessarily because I think a lot of us actually just want to have a streamlined solution going into our GH5 for most filming situations. Now, what surprised me next was that they didn't dismiss me. I'm not a major YouTuber by any means, and they listened to what I had to say, understood what I was trying to tell them, and not only did they come up with a solution for me by making me an attenuator cable specifically for this use case, and that they're going to include it in all their other shipments, but they're going to make a hardware revision in their next batch to essentially come up with a DSLR mode that allows us to use it with our cameras without having to introduce the noise floor. Guys, that kind of floored me because I don't know many startup companies that would actually think this way and actually try to actively do something. I feel like most companies are like, well, tough. That's not exactly how we want you to use our products. They're meant for an audio recorder, so tough. No, they understood what I was going to say, and they're not going to alienate one market or the other. They're going to make sure both markets can have it. So, PicoGear, I see you and I am rooting for you. Keep doing what you're doing, because if this is how you're responding with your first product, I cannot wait to see what you do many products down the line. You're probably going to have a smash hit all the way through. Okay, with that story out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this review. So the PicoMic wireless system at the time of this recording is anywhere from $450 to $500, and this is a dual channel wireless system, which is awesome. So the price is quite competitive. Not only that, obviously these mics are extremely small, which I already talked about, which makes it really easy to deploy, clip on, and call it good. But another thing that they have is that this whole system can last up to 20 hours. And I'm not kidding, because I gave up after 16 hours. At 16 hours after leaving it on all day in front of a TV, doing my tests to make sure it was constantly working, 16 hours is how long it took for it to finally go down to the last battery bar. At that point, I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna call it. I'm sure it's gonna last up to 20 hours because I need to go to bed. In terms of charging it, it takes 4 hours to do a full charge, which is not bad considering how they designed it. So on the receiver, there's 2 magnetic docks for the microphones, and these also serve as their charging ports. There is 1 micro USB port on the bottom, and I love that they thought about this design because now you don't need to bring 3 USB cables, 3 USB ports of sorts to ensure that you can charge the entire unit. No, 1 micro USB cable is going to do it for you. The receiver itself is no bigger than an iPhone 5, which is quite awesome that it's this compact, but there's a lot of features on it because the receiver essentially acts as your control hub. From here, if you enter into the microphone menus, you can change the gain and you can actually mute it from a distance if you don't need to hear the second microphone. Now, the receiver's own menu has a couple more awesome things. First off is the 0 decibel test. So what this is going to allow you to do is you're going to be able to fine calibrate where the 0 dB is on your recorder or your DSLR, and that way when you do and adjust the mic gains, it's not going to try to surpass it and clip. So that is awesome that they included a 0 dB tone test. Next, this system actually can work with TRS and TRRS, and you can actually choose which mode you want. TRS is going to go into your computer and your GH5s and other cameras, and TRRS is going to go into your smartphones. Not only that, they also allow you to determine if you want mic 1 in the left or right channel or mic 2 in the left or right channel, or you can do mono and have them in both. That is an awesome feature that they thought about. And of course, you're also able to adjust the output gain of the receiver, which I've been told you want to stay as close to 0 dB as possible because that is where the noise floor is at its lowest, somewhere around -81 dB. Okay, and now we are going to the test that everyone always wants to know with these wireless microphones, the distance test. Okay guys, we're outside in a parking lot. There's really not a whole lot of structures really nearby for the PicoGear or PicoStream to be bouncing signals off of. So I'm just gonna keep talking and turning around approximately 50 feet each time to see if you can still hear me. And of course, this whole line of sight test to see if you actually need to be facing the camera. We're nearing 50 feet now as I turned around, and this is what I sound like. I actually have a wind muff on here that's not made by PicoGear. It's actually made by Rode, and that's because there is a little bit of wind out here as I turn around at 100 feet. There is a little bit of wind out here today, and I just wanted to make sure you're not hearing that wind distortion versus like actual distortion when you can't see me. I'm going to turn around and continue walking. Now, this, still talking, la la la, Peter Piper pecked a pickled pepper or something like that. Anyways, I'll turn around again. I'm at about 150 feet now, and I'm only going to stop this test once I make my way to the edge of this parking lot because generally speaking, you're not going to be filming that far away with this audio. So I turn around as I continue walking away from the camera, not really sure what you're going to be hearing right now. I had assumed that by now my voice should sound distorted as it struggles to figure out where the receiver actually is. But as I turn back around, we're probably hitting 250 feet at this point, and I'm still just walking backwards as I slowly make my way to the edge. I'm turning around again. I am pretty much at the edge of the parking lot, the last parking space, but I'm going to keep going to the sidewalk over here. And at this point in time, you probably can't really hear me. As I turn around one last time, I am at the sidewalk at the furthest end of this parking lot, and this is approximately 300 some feet, maybe a little bit less, but at this point in time, I'm going to walk back towards you, and I'm going to keep talking, and hopefully you can see me in the camera, and you can use it as a distance gauge, and I'll kind of tell you where I think I am in terms of distance, probably 250 feet where I'm starting here. Okay, so PicoStream or PicoGear is going to be making their own wind muff, but at the current time, you can use a Rycote slip-on wind muff, and that will work. So it's good to know that they will be taking care of the wind situation because of how the microphone's designed, but we're probably about 200 feet now, a little bit less. Honestly speaking, when we're doing these distance tests out in the complete open, I really just have to say that yes, it's awesome to know how far you can actually go, but is it actually a true filming situation? No. The camera might be that far away, but that doesn't mean your audio recorder is. And if you're doing some big, huge mega event, I'm about less than 100 feet away now, I think. If you're doing some major event, and chances are the speaker is already going to be mic'd up anyways, so you're just going to have your recorder going into the soundboard and you'll be fine, about 50 feet away now. And if you do have to be literally 300 some feet away, that doesn't mean your audio recorder has to be. We're probably nearing 30 some feet now. Your audio recorder can literally be where they're talking and presenting. Use a Zoom F6 and you'll never clip. So anyways, that is the distance test of the PicoStream. So in terms of the outdoor distance test in an open environment, it actually does quite good. Now I know most people are probably not going to be shooting a subject that's 200, 300 feet away. You're probably going to be anywhere under 100 feet. I would actually say if you know the subject outside in a wide open field and they're going to be turning around all over the place, you might want to stay within 50 feet of them just to be safe. Now, let's say you're indoors. How well does it work if the system is indoors and going through walls and stuff like that if you have to? Well, let's test that out right now. So I'm going to leave the office here. I'm going to close the door and go into the adjacent room, closing the door. So now there is currently one wall in between us. I think you can still hear me. This is not a solid wall, just a wooden wall, so not a big deal. I'm going to now make my way to the furthest end of the property. And now you got a kitchen, a living room, blocking everything, multiple walls. Some of these are solid, so if you can still hear me, great. And now I'm going to actually go outside of the property altogether, and you might even hear that lawnmower somewhere. So now there is brick walls that's blocking everything. I'm gonna walk a little bit outside. There's a little bit of wind, so you might hear that. So anyways, this is the most extreme filming conditions, and if you can still hear me, awesome. I'm gonna now make my way back into the property. And boom, closing doors, making my way back to the studio. I'm getting closer, closer. I'm still talking so you can hear me. I'm about to hit into the studio. 3, 2, 1, and I am here. And if you were able to hear me during all of that, then awesome. So what is the bottom line here? Who is this PicoMic wireless system actually for? Well, I have to say, wedding videographers. Seriously, you need to think about this. And if you're a beginning wedding videographer, then you really need to think about investing into this because again, the microphone itself is so small, you can definitely hide it into the coat pocket, either inside or outside. Maybe you can clip it onto the pastor or maybe the bouquet of flowers or something to allow you to get audio when they're at the altar and of course, when they're at the reception. Now, I know the audio quality might not be like a Sennheiser. Rightfully so, because the capsule on this microphone is so tiny. I get it. The audio might not sound the richest, but here's the thing. On a wedding day, I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. It's not about you. It's about them. And if you have to wire somebody up or take time to wire somebody up when they're trying to get ready, they're trying to get pretty for their wedding, and you're jumping in there trying to get all this stuff done, or heaven forbid, your battery pack dies on the groom or somebody and you actually have to run in there and try to do something, or you hired a boom operator to follow them around and now the photographer has to dodge that. I hate to say this, but it's not about you. It's about them. Your sole job is for them to never know you were ever there. And when you deliver your highlight reel or the wedding video in general, they are going to cry because they were like, you caught that? I didn't even know you were around. If you can do that, then you know you've got something. And because of how small this thing is, and the fact that it runs for 20 hours, and the fact that you can actually turn off the microphone from a distance with the receiver to conserve batteries throughout the day when they're going from the ceremony to the reception, they're never going to know they were mic'd up. And case in point, I showed this to a colleague a couple days ago when I was doing my initial tests, and I said, dude, check out this mic. I clipped it onto him. He's like, wow, that's really small. We talked for like 2.5 hours, and then he had to leave. And when he got up, I said, oh, by the way, don't forget to give me back my microphone. And he looks down, he's like, oh my God, I forgot that it was there. Guys, that's what you want. I know the audio quality is not going to be a Sennheiser or some really high-end lavalier capsule, but the fact that you can get audio without actually getting into their wedding way, sorry, without getting into their way, and then again, in post-production, you can clean it up a little bit, you can EQ it a little bit to work with this digital sound, and they're not gonna know the difference, guys. They're not audio engineers, you are. So you can finite and fine-tune the audio signal and also capture a wonderful moment for them at their wedding. Now, I do know that this thing is going to rub on the clothes if you decide to put it on the inside of the jacket. So PicoGear is making a wind muff, and I do want to talk to them a little bit and say, hey, can you also make sure that your wind muff not only cancels out wind, but also minimalizes the clothing noise if you decide to put it inside the jacket pocket. If they can do that, then they will have a grand slam for sure for wedding videographers. Now, if you do maybe college lectures and stuff like that, or corporate lectures, these are definitely going to be great, because the last thing you want to do is when someone's giving their lecture is yet again, if heaven forbid the battery pack runs out because it's a long lecture, then you're going to have to run up in there and interrupt everything. This one, 20 hours, you're going to be fine. Now, what about my narrative filmmakers out there? Is this something that we should be thinking about? I'm going to say primarily no, but yes, in certain degrees. Again, if that wind muff is going to be able to cancel out a lot of that wind noise, then that'd be great. But again, this microphone is extremely small, and it's got a built-in limiter and all this stuff. So there's a lot of automation that's going into this. And the reason I'm saying primarily no is because PicoGear at this moment in time is designing and developing an XLR version, which I also believe is going to have a 3.5 millimeter jack. I don't know for sure, but they said, yes, we know that there is a market for this, and we are in designing phases and developing this thing. So for narrative filmmakers, I think the PicoMic wireless system might not be for you. This is more for event people and YouTubers, what have you. For narrative people, filmmakers, you're gonna want to wait for that XLR module, because if it's anything like this system at the competitive price point that they are putting it in, that is going to be something truly amazing. And hey, that's it for this week, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. This costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next one.